on the call with us. And so we want to formally welcome you to today's webinar. And you're going to get a lot of tools and tips that you could use, and which will speak to, like I said, everyone, all the different levels you guys indicated you're at. We'll get a glimpse into what agility is all about, what it means to be an Agile team, and even how you can become an Agile Transformation Leader. So we cover the whole spectrum here. And when it comes to who we are, I know we've got a slide that'll showcase each of our pictures. And so what we're going to be talking about is a little bit of why we're here today. So if you guys want to, Mia and Bjorn, let us know a little bit about, you know, what has Agile meant to you? What has that journey been for you guys?
So when you think about career-wise, I started to work Agile, I think, before we call it Agile, because on my first actual job as a designer in an agency, I was sitting in a design team by myself in the room with designers and working on projects, of course, with developers. So it took maybe a couple of weeks or something before I left that room and joined the developers, because I wanted to sit with them, the people I work with. So I've always been a team person. And once we started to talk about Scrum and Agile teams, that I felt instantly that that was really something for me. And I think it's been equal to people that I've talked to before who felt that this was really something for them. So when it actually came that we could work Agile as an organization with other teams, I actually started a transformation in an organization with 300 people, and I was the only designer. And I thought then again that I was all alone, and I wanted to work with the people who actually crafted things together with me. So we started that transformation based on my understanding that I was alone, and that wouldn't be good for anyone probably. So, and that was like, 23 years ago that I started to work. So it's been ongoing since then, I think. So a love story from the start.
Oh, I love that. And what's neat is everybody's Agile origin story is a love story. And then Bjorn, I know yours is really an interesting period of time, if you want to share yours from Ericsson about what your journey was like.
Yeah, actually it started in 96. I was working in a company, and so I would say I would have been in contact with what today call Agile. At that time we were calling it dynamic management, and we were a company, we were totally flat, we were working cross-functional, no silos, team-based. I started in Ericsson 2000. And 2009, I would say, was, how can I say, I was working as an HR business partner in the part of Ericsson in R&D, and it was a game changer 2009 for me then, because then we decided in this part to go Agile, and suddenly I ended up in a situation that was totally wonderful, because I had the opportunity to start to experiment and come up with new ideas of how to work Agile inside HR, and how to work to support Agile from an HR point of view. So today we call it Agile HR, and it was fantastic to have the opportunity to start to work with in that way at that time. Everything was coming together.
Oh, I love it. And what's neat is, I'm sure like a lot of everybody's Agile origin stories, you may hear a little bit of your own story reflected in all of ours, but I hear mine echoed within both of yours, except my beginning was in physics. I was a theoretical physicist who fell in love with the learning process. So I was naturally data-driven, empirical, and iterative. So when I got into learning and development, I kept my roots, right? I would embed myself in the teams like how Mia described, and I would co-create solutions. And of course, being in an HR department like Bjorn, started seeing opportunities to practice what came naturally that I didn't know at the time was agility, but after I kept leaning into this approach, I soon discovered this Agile global community with other folks with HR backgrounds. And it's exciting. So So thank you. And we are going to formally start the conversation with a really good question. I love this. So why is everyone talking about Agile? I mean, even Forbes recently published an article on why Agile is the mindset that'll get us through the COVID crisis. So I'd love to invite Mia and Bjorn if you guys would like to speak to that question. Why?
Yeah, I can start here. I would say, I think it's the combination of a lot of stuff. Of course, the word is spreading around Agile, but I think also that it has to do with the amount of changes in our environment, and the feeling when I'm at the customer or at the university or so, and we're talking to the people there, they're saying, okay, the amount of changes compared to time is increasing constantly. And one example is, or could be, that it took roughly 100 years to connect 1 billion people to the telephone, but it took 25 years then to connect 6 billion thereafter. And today, 2020, the estimated number of connected devices in the world is 50 billion. So that is probably one part of it, to keep up with the speed of change. And then you need to be agile. The amount of connections is also creating complexity in itself. And that's another reason why we have to be agile, I would say, because we have to probe, sense, and respond all the time to everything that is happening. Suddenly someone is tweeting and starting an event in some completely different part of the world, that and that event can spread all over the globe, more or less. We have actually new countries also coming in, especially during the 90s. And they're also creating complexity. And we have new technologies and so on and so on. And all this is connected. And this model or this picture is actually inspired by this one. It's a children's toy. And it's very hard and very difficult to understand or guess what's happening if I'm pushing here, how it will, what will happen in another part of this toy. So it's very interesting. So that's the picture from that one. And today we can see also that we have a virus that's actually more or less is running the world at the moment. It occurs in one part of the world, and now it's spreading all over the place, and people start to act and do stuff to handle the situation and create different reactions in different parts of in the world all the time. And the only way out of this is to start to probe, sense, and respond, and see what's happening all the time. Probe, sense, and respond. Probe, sense, and respond. And that is an agile way of working also. So what kind of organization do we need to handle this kind of complexity, increase in complexity and increase in speed of change? Well, the only one we actually know about for the moment is what we today call a learning organization. The best form of organization is an organization that's facilitating learning for all its members in the organization. So if you're in a organization with low complexity, or in a world and situation where you have low complexity and low speed of change, then you may handle the situation with a traditional organization. But what we can see is that we have to move away more and more to handle the speed of change. And we have those flat organizations that's starting to occur in our world to handle flow. And that's really, really, really good. But we also need to start to curve up and handle the complexity in the world. And that is done, one of the ways of handle this is to start to work with the strategic direction with the people in the organization. So they can also help out to handle the complexity. So what is the prerequisite for a learning organization? Well, I would say that first of all, according to studies, scientific studies and so, it's an organization that is facilitating the learning. It's constantly create learning opportunities in the organization. It's seen work as learning and learning as work. But they're also handling, I would say, we can take the next one there. Provide inquiry and dialogue all the time also. And it's also a massive communication in the organization. And we can take the next one. And it also encourages collaboration and team learning. And here is another thing that is very interesting that personally I think it's pretty hard to do, but is to create systems to capture and share learning organization. So the key for me here was when I understood that actually, we as people are also a system. So it's not technical high-tech system necessarily, but it's of course nice to have also. But the point is that we all are a system. We are all part of this system. And therefore we can help each other to capture and share learning and spread it human to human. Another thing is also to empower people towards a collective vision. And there you, if you remember, I was talking about started to work according to the strategic direction, or involve as much people as possible in the strategic decision making and the creation of the strategic direction also. Here we have it also, empower people to a collective vision. And also, this is super important because otherwise we are just, we don't understand what's happening in our world. We need to be connected to the organization to follow the change curve and to understand the complexity. And last, we also need to have a leadership that is supporting development and learning and helping out to transform the organization, constantly to transform the organization.
Thank you, Bjorn. That's huge, making that connection between today's rapidly changing environments, how it's those organizations that can react and respond and keep up with the pace of change. Learning organizations are the ones that are going to survive. And that brings us to concrete tactics, right? What are some of the tactics that we could use to support a learning organization? And because I love collective intelligence and we've got so many brilliant minds joining us, even some masters of the universe of Agile, I would love to throw this out to you guys before tapping into Bjorn's experience and ask you to think of some concrete actions that have inspired experimentation, growth, and development. What have you guys in terms of tactics done in your organizations to support learning? And feel free to answer in the chat this time. So in the chat, feel free to just call out some things like Slack time for cross-functional learning or hackathons, lunch and learns. In the chat box, feel free to chime in some strategies that you've used, some tactics, I mean, to help support a learning organization that have worked for you. And we'll send them out at the end of our session. I'll compile them together and send them out so you can benefit from the wisdom of the crowd. So we'll take a few seconds. Anybody want to share some in the chat? What are some tactics that you've seen work well for supporting a learning organization? Ooh, job shadowing. Yes, yes, very effective.
I like that.
Yeah, that 70-20-10 rule, right? 70% of learning on the job. And that, the modeling, the social learning piece for that. Oh, Carrie! Hello, Carrie from California. I know you. Thank you. Anyone else want to throw in something before I hand the mic over to Bjorn? Self-leadership workshops. Ooh, creating a virtual team and showing by doing. Yes, so the organization can try before they buy. Love it. Yeah. Thank you, David. Always jump on stuff you've never done before. Those opportunities are huge. Yes, step out and take those small risks. Nice. Anything else? Feel free to, even if you think of ideas after we pass the mic to Bjorn, we're going to be compiling these and sending them out. Ooh, facilitating a movement within the organization, letting people try different roles in different teams. That is cool. Yeah, I've seen that before. Mentorship programs. You guys are doing great.
Oh,
I love
club.
Great connection of gurus. Get the management team into it first, start at the top. Yes, trainee programs. Oh, you guys are going to get emailed such a great list of ideas. Bjorn, do you want to jump in also and share yours while they're getting inspired?
I can say some words also. It's, of course, this is brilliant stuff, I would say. What I have started to, for myself at least, and in the customer at where I am at the moment, is micro-learning. And the trick is there to have it for everyone all the time. I like that very, very much. I heard a nice story about a hotel that had micro-learning and started to allow people to make films. They were using a mobile phone and filming themselves, and suddenly they were bartenders that were starting to share new drinks. And after a while, the bartenders also started to create new drinks because they were combining different drinks from different persons, and that was spreading all over the place in the hotel between the bartenders. And then also something is just, let's say you have had some kind of micro-learning or maybe self-study or from something else, and then you can combine that with some kind of facilitated learning session where you share the learning between other persons in the organization, preferably actually people that are not in your organization, but it's good to have them in your organization also. Another thing is buddy system, or in this case, a triad with people that are starting to work together when it comes to learning cross silos in different parts of the organization. And the point here is that they actually shouldn't know each other in the beginning. So they start a new learning, new understanding, and new colleagues in the organization. That is some stuff that I like very much.
Oh, that's awesome. And because they all fit together beautifully into an Agile toolbox that we'll be talking about later, how these types of concrete ways to bring about transformation to an organization, they're so valuable no matter where you are on that Agile experience continuum, which is fabulous. And I'm going to invite Mia actually to share some of the ways that we are innovating behind the scenes to help add to your toolbox, to create for you and others and ourselves an experience to take these things to the next level. So Mia, if you'd like to share more.
Thank you, Carrie. The basis for this presentation is actually stuff that we've created for our trainings and stuff that we use with our clients, of course, and maybe you recognize a couple of things from the posters that we've shared too. So we've started to create online trainings for customers and also for individuals, so you can actually use them as an individual freely to support your own growth, your own career, and maybe your own work that you do. Maybe you're a coach. And this is the actual basics of this presentation. So we will talk about the Agile in a nutshell, and we will talk about teams, and we will talk about leadership, transformational leadership. And all of these are also trainings that you can take. So we will see a couple of snippets from the actual trainings, and we will talk about the content, right?
Oh, you muted
myself, but I wasn't all the time, right?
No, not the whole time.
That's how it is when you get this panel of stuff happening all over. So we'll start with Agile in a nutshell, and just a couple of things from that, right? So Carrie, this is yours.
Yes, because I am a huge fan of what is called the Agile onion. It's a wonderful way to visualize the journey to become an agile organization, which we learned from Bjorn is a learning organization that can rapidly respond to change in these uncertain, turbulent times that we're all finding ourselves in, right? And this matters because learning organizations get the most value from Agile. Now, you can see in the very middle that tools and processes are a great start, but they're not the goal, right? You can have Kanban boards and practice stand-ups every day, but this doesn't mean you're Agile. Even command and control cultures can do this. Now, when people are just visually going through the motions like this, and without living out the principles or values, we call this doing Agile, which is an important part of the onion, but it's not realizing the full potential of agility. If we move up the onion a little more into the principles, values, and mindsets, we'll start seeing structural changes that'll actually shift the culture into a people-first culture, where team decisions are based on Agile principles and behaviors are aligned with Agile values, and people are enabled to continuously improve and meet customer needs. So I'm a huge fan, and we give a massive shout out to Simon Powers from Adventures with Agility for creating the onion. Now, a massive benefit of becoming an Agile organization is that agility enables fast delivery of customer value, which brings us to the next slide. Now, customers love this, okay? So this video Mia will be playing is on batch size and flow, and it beautifully illustrates some key ideas from agility that'll lead us into a fun conversation. And after 25 seconds, Mia's gonna pause, and I'll have a question for you guys. Oh, I can't hear the sound.
We can't hear the sound.
Oh, because you were muted. There we go.
Okay, so we'll go like this.
We'll start with 10 bikes at once. We'll start with 5 bikes at once. We'll produce 1 bike at a time. Great, let's test and see if we can sell some. Which company will deliver first and get the most happy customers?
Oh, so what do you guys think? A, B, or C? Okay, so far we see C. In the chat, feel free to answer. You think the big batch, medium batch, or small batch? So far we've got, oh my goodness, we've got all these words for C's.
Okay, so I'll continue.
Yeah, please do. We have one vote for B.
Or C?
Let's watch. I love this.
Company C won most of the customers. Small batch sizes often cut delivery time by half, and it enables you to deliver the right solution.
So, if small batch sizes enable faster delivery of the right solution, oh, let me repeat, I'm just kidding. If small batch sizes enable faster delivery of the right solution, wait for it, why are most organizations still practicing A and B? Mia, Bjorn, I'd love for you guys, you've been in the trenches for a long time. Why do you think most organizations are still practicing A and B when we just saw a very simple but powerful illustration as to small batch size? What do you guys think?
What I think?
Yeah, how would you answer this? What have you seen in your
I would say that you want to feel safe that you've that you will do what you've planned on. So it's mostly the budgeting process. I would say that holds you back to do smaller sizes because you do what you planned a long time ago, and then usually it's very difficult to deliver smaller sizes of batches and get feedback continuously if you have that type of financial system running the organization. So I don't know if anyone has any other ideas.
Oh, yeah, definitely share. Oh, David, yeah, project management mindset driven by annual budget cycles. Yes, finance is huge. I'm a big beyond budgeting fan personally. What, Bjorn, do you want to chime in as well? And please keep the conversation in the chat.
Yeah, I've been wondering a lot about this also, but I think it also has to do something with the mindset of us, that we like to deliver, you know, a full dinner or immediate at once, and it's big, it's beautiful, and this kind of stuff also. But I also think it has very much to do with the traditional management system, such as HR, then of course, but the finance, how we are thinking there. And also that we as, how can I say, when we want something, we are asking we are ordering like 10 bicycles, or we are ordering, and then we would like to have everything at once. So it's also to train the people in the other end, me as a customer also, that I maybe will not have everything at once. So that could be one thing also, I think, is and it's usually better, and I maybe get it faster and faster and faster also.
Yes, when I see a lot of great comments that are completely aligned with that, and really traditional mindset, and even, yeah, about the difficulties of changing these old ways of working. Now, this brings us to a whole nother area that folks have difficulty in when you have a traditional mindset with ways of working, which is cross-functional teams, right? Breaking down those silos. And this brings us to a core part of agility, which is self-organizing autonomous teams. And Mia, I'd love for you to kick off this section, because this is how we can make agility really start to manifest in an organization.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. So of course it's the teams in the organization that actually, maybe I should go back. It's the team in the organization that actually creates value, right? So those are the people who need to be high functional and have the mandate to make decisions continuously, and to have the data, update the data around customers and how things are working. So that for me is what Agile Teams is about, to enable that in the organization. And for this training, what we've done, this training module actually is a little bit different than from the nutshell one, which is more introducing the agility, what's that about, and how that can benefit the organization and the individual. This training is actually more of a toolbox, so that's why we wanted to show this one, because this can help the organization to start new teams in a good way, to give basic practices and learnings around this, but also use it for increasing and developing the team, to mature the team, and to support that across the organization, because this is usually something that we as Agile coaches might see. If we are a group of Agile coaches, we need to spread that capability across the organization, and we need everyone to help to mature the team and to start a team. So that's not for a manager, that's for the actual team to do. So that's why we created this module, to be able to do that in a better way, scale that. And for a team, for me, that's about the mindset and the capabilities. So giving this to the team to mature the team, and to give them everything that they need to work in a good way, and giving them the capabilities to have the growth mindset, which could be that we actually, as a cross-functional team, can collaborate in a good way. So we are T-shaped, we have different competencies, and as for maybe designers like myself joining into a team with maybe developers and testers and other competencies who might not be used to work with people with other competencies, because I know a lot of designers, they have the design process, they have design tools and methods, but they're not used to working with other people from outside the design community. So helping them, creating a growth mindset that they can actually work together, and that will benefit the business as well as the customers, of course, and themselves, because that will also grow your, I would say, career, and make it possible for you in the future also to do a better job. And then have the agile ways of working for the team so that they maybe can choose if they should do the Scrumban or maybe Kanban or Scrum. So maybe having a mix of this depending on what type of team you are as well, to support the team to choose and to develop that way of working as well. And of course, maturing the team and making it high performing, and which would be that we need to have maybe managers or leaders to coach the team in the beginning and then step out and leave that to the team, and maybe just give the actual support that is needed when it is needed. So we have some content around that in the training as well. So understanding the leader's role in maturing a team and how you can support the team to mature, using a great model around that. And then customer focus, of course, because this is also something the team needs to have as a capability. So it's not just about Scrum or Kanban or anything like that. It's about actually working to deliver customer value together as a team. So for me, this is kind of the picture of the team that I have, and the parts that we maybe have also in the training as well. And one thing that we want to, of course, talk about in the beginning is what is a team? Because we might have constellations in the organization that we might call a team, but it might be that they not really are in need of each other, like it was when I started to work as a designer in a design team. We call it a team, but we didn't really do anything together. We didn't deliver anything valuable together. We had talks about design, we had glossy magazines, so we might help each other a little bit on different parts, but we had different projects, right? So we were more of a temporary alliance. We were maybe working a little bit together sometimes, but not really with the same goal. We didn't really need each other to actually develop anything. And if you are in the lower part, you're just co-workers. And that means that, you know, it's fun to go to the office. I meet nice people. We chit chat at the coffee machine, but we're not really working together because I'm doing my work myself. And if you're a pseudo team, which means that you don't really maybe have a common goal because you do different things. So you're not really sharing maybe, or you're actually not in need of each other. Sorry, I mixed it up here. So you have a shared goal, but you don't need each other to deliver on this. So what we need to shift towards is to actually give the team the actual shared goal, so you can collaborate and work together, and that we bring the people in who actually need each other to work together. So everyone who is needed to develop whatever is the goal should be in that team. And that's when we can get a high-performing team that delivers value together. So a shared goal and needing each other is super, super important. And this is a really great picture created by Victor Cezanne and Stefan Lindblom that we would like to use in the training and also communicate with people so that we understand why we actually need this, because this is when we will actually create a high-performing team. And this is a visual of a well-functioning, high-performing team and where we would like to be. Because if we talk about teams in an agile organization, we actually talk about high-performing teams, not teams that are maybe not mature, maybe not having the shared goal. So it needs to be with the shared goal and also being mature, so to increase the performance. And that's where we would like to coach the team and have the team stay for as long as possible. So having this visual of the curve to understand that we need to include people, we will have friction, we know that, and that's where the actual performance will go down, which takes maybe a couple of weeks in a new team. And we need to create some structure to help the team to actually collaborate and understand each other and where we're going, why we're doing what we're doing, what's the purpose and what's the goal. And then we can come up to this high-performing, well-functioning team. We would like the team to stay for as long as possible. And if we start to remove people from the team and don't have it stable for maybe 6 months or a year or something, then they will fall back. So if we remove people from the team, they will fall back, maybe back to friction, and we need to coach them back again. And this is, of course, maybe a job that managers need to be aware of. So understanding what will happen if we don't have well-functioning and high-performing team, because that won't bring the value that we look for in an agile organization. That will hold people back. So if we do this really, really well, we'll have agile ways of working with high-performing teams we might get maybe 400% more value from the organization. And I know that Björn will talk about that in the leadership part as well, that this is super important to grow people and grow structures to enable business value. So that leads into the next part. Kari, would you like to say a couple of words?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That the team part is, especially the maturity component that you just spoke to, there's actually a lot of research that indicates a strong correlation between a group's or a team's maturity level and their agile practices of iterative development and retrospectives. So it's neat how even research backs up the importance of just cognizance of, number one, whether or not your team is actually a team, and number two, where are they on the maturity process? So no, thank you, that was great.
And I can see that Oscar is writing around Susan Whelan in the chat. And the maturity model that we use in the Agile Teams poster and also in the training, that's a combination of Tuckman and Susan Whelan, because we want to generalize it a little bit so that all organizations actually can use what we share. Otherwise, it might be we already chosen this model or that model. So we want to make it easier for anyone to maybe have some shared model. So it's actually a combination that we have.
Nice. Oh, that's great. That's great. And this leads us very naturally into Bjorn's component, which is leadership. And I know in the training videos, he plays an active role, and there's some fun vignettes coming up. So you're going to definitely want to stick around to see Hollywood Bjorn in just a little bit. But Bjorn, please kick us off.
Yeah. So first of all, this model is heavily inspired by a model called full range leadership. And the Swedish Armed Forces is also using this model, roughly this one. So it's built upon that also. So just to explain here, they have been doing some really good research around organizations that have looked into organizations that have a high business growth or high organization result. And they have been looking into what kind of leadership do those organizations have. And the organization that has the highest organizational result is those with a transformational leadership or developmental leadership. Slightly behind that, or even rather far away actually from that also, is what we usually call conventional leadership, or many people are saying traditional leadership. And something that is super new, actually last year here in, I think it was October, they made a addition to this one, and it's destructive behaviors. So the idea here is that transformational leadership is actually increasing or helping people and organizations to grow, especially team and people then. And then you grow people, and by growing people, you're actually growing your business. So it's quite easy, I would say. If you want to jump high, you have to train. And then the organizational result come. You are jumping higher. That's the thinking here. And then there is a red line here, and that's the paradigm shift. And what we can see now in our organizations around us is that the traditional conventional leadership isn't up to date. It has served us very, very well, but we need to do something more. And that is to move up to transformational leadership, or what we call agile leadership. The traditional conventional leadership is too slow. It doesn't develop people enough, and neither the teams either. And what we absolutely have to do is actually to get rid of our destructive behaviors, because all of us have all those behaviors. I have met people that we today would call a destructive leader that also can show that they are inspiring and motivating and caring. So they are showing up good leadership behaviors, actually. I mean, even up into the transformational leadership style. And then when you ask them, how often are they behaving like that? And I asked a manager that, and he said, well, he couldn't actually, well, a couple of times a week. Oh, but you have to do it a couple of times an hour. You have to do it a lot more. So, but instead of me talking here, we will dive into and look at one of those, the destructive behaviors. And you will see an example of one of the films. And sorry for participating as an actor in this one.
So that's our plan. What do you think?
Great, thank you.
What have you been doing? This is crap. Remember, I'm the one who will take the heat tomorrow. You have until 8 o'clock, both of you, tomorrow in this room to fix this, okay? I will be here then.
Hey, did you hear what happened with the presentation? It went really well.
Yeah, I heard. But he took all the credit for our work.
I know, as always.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, so there you had some example of a destructive leader. But I think we also could look at a more transformational leadership style.
So that's the idea. What do you think?
It's great, looks good. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. I think it's a tough task we got. But I think you guys are into something very interesting here.
Good. We're, of course, not really sure if this is going to work, but I think it's good enough for now and safe for us to try.
Okay, but what do you need from me? Well, if you could introduce us to some of the other department heads for us to sort of increase the collaboration, that would be great. Okay, but then I have an idea. You two have the presentation tomorrow instead of me. Then they know you and you know them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what type of questions they might give us?
Honestly, I don't know. But let's do like this. We meet tomorrow before the presentation in this room. And we go through the questions. I will come up with some stuff that I think the leadership team will ask you. And we can have a rehearsal then also, of course.
That's great.
All right. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah. Great.
Good. Sorry.
Yeah, and so some kind of summary of all those behaviors is, imagine that you're on a road, you're on a journey, and how would you like, which one would you like to have as your leader, or maybe you are a leader, or why not just a colleague? So would you like to have a driver that is like this? Passive destructive driving style, insecure, nervous driver, seems a little bit anxious. Actually, it's unclear who is actually in control. Or active destructive, aggressive driving style, cutting off other cars and even threatening people, driving carelessly and so on. And especially holding unrealistic expectation on others, but are not living up to the same standards. Or maybe negative conventional driving style, using over dramatic hand signals, making negative comments about others' driving style. Or maybe this one. Strive for agreement, but is prepared to take necessary, be in charge and take necessary steps when needing. Or maybe this one. A transformative driving style, drive as a role model, take responsibility and personal care for those in and around the car, even involving the passenger through the journey. You know, it's a fast-moving, changing world with fast animals, potholes, and curvy road. Who would you like to be, or who would you like to have as a driver in your car? Just think about that a couple of minutes, or a second maybe, because we're a little bit behind actually, aren't we, Mia?
We are. We talk too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, you know, passive destructive seems very difficult to. I would not want to join in that car. That's for sure. So, should we continue?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So we've hit upon the beginning of the close of our talk, which is exploring what's next. And I know, Mia, you've prepared a few slides to share that explores what we can expect coming down the pike to help support these emerging learning organizations.
Yeah, so the first thing, of course, that everyone who joins in will get 20% of the trainings on the website. And we will also send out these to the poster with Agile patterns, as well as the decision-making canvas, which might be handy now when we have this time of complexity and high speed, that we actually need to make smart decisions quite quickly as a team. So it's a really, really good canvas that also will be part of the next module that we will start, or we actually already have started with, which is Agile Management. So also, I would like to just talk a little bit about what you can do with the training. So you can join a training anytime you feel like it. So you can start it, you can join it, you can use it as micro-learning. You can also use it with whoever you would like to use it with, but you buy your individual license. And you could join in the Agile program. So 4-week online Agile program that starts May 13 with these wonderful people. So I will be one of the actual practitioners coaching you and facilitating. So that will be using the online platform with the training material, with self-studies, facilitated online workshops, homework, and assignments. And you will continuously every week do new things within your organization and share with the people in the group, of course. So you're welcome to join that if you like. And also, as an organization, you can use this as an organizational Agile program to transform your organization using these techniques that we've talked about today, of course, creating a learning organization and giving this to the organization to evolve and become what you would like it to be. So that's also something you can do. And this is the place that you find it. So it's not dandypeople.com, it's agileonlinetrainings.com. This is a website that Dandy People has created and shared the content on. So it's a really good learning platform that we have. So this is the ending, right? Carrie, how can Agile boost your career, right? And Carrie, you're muted right now, so we can't hear you.
Oh, but you saw my just rapid gesticulation.
Yeah,
Yes,
you get really strong now.
Yes, Agile Master of the Universe. So how can agility help boost your career, the career of others, and not just that, but also your organization, bring that transformation. So just that, asking that question to set the tone and get your gear spinning. And we want to open the floor for Q&A. And I know Pernilla has been compiling different questions coming in, including the one from David that I saw in the chat. So if I'd love to invite Pernilla to share some of the questions to get us started on some Q&A.
Yeah, hi everyone. Well, people have been both very, very fun. Apparently, you know some friends here, Björn, right? and of course, we have had some very interesting dialogues here. And David had a very, very, very good input as when to how to really act when managers don't fully realize what really happens to the team when they pull and plug people in and out of the teams constantly. And he's asking for your advice on how to actually address that with those managers who don't realize the huge impact that actually has on the team. So what would your response be to that one?
So do I understand it correct that they are breaking up the team now and then, or?
Yes, so like pulling and plugging people into the teams and not really understanding.
So I think it's my thinking there is it depends on the person, of course. A typical consultant answer, but and I would like to first I would try to talk with the manager about it. But what I usually like to do is I look at this kind of stuff as not because the manager or the person is dumb, it's just because it's lack of, how can I say, training or understanding. So I like to do some kind of exercises, and so people have experience themselves. And there are some of them like a name game, and I don't remember all the names of them, but the idea there is that maybe you're doing some kind of, let's say, visit card, and you're writing your name, and you're working with this, how can I call it, task switching, and doing this kind of exercises, so the person understands that when doing like that, they're actually forcing the people in the organization and the team to do task switching, and that is slowing down the flow in the organization, and they actually are reducing the organizational capacity. But of course, it depends on the situation and where the person are and so on. And maybe, Mia, we could share some trainings there also around that, or example of exercises that we have.
Yeah, I think actually there are, of course, content in the team training around this. So maybe like Björn is saying, that these persons, they actually need more understanding of an agile team and how we create high-performing teams. So working with the Susan Whelan model and having maybe the actual manager to help and support teams, maybe join a team of their own, and maybe create some common grounds on what we want from the teams. So if we want to have just a group of people that we can bring in and do the task switching and maybe optimize for having just the smartest guy or the right person at all times, resource optimization, or if we want to have flow optimizations in the agile team. So that's two different things, and maybe agreeing on what we want and giving them the understanding and knowledge around this. So I think that probably helps. And then you can say, so what are the things we actually want from the organization, and create an agreement around that maybe. But I know it can be difficult, especially if you're doing also projects. So if you have a plan-based structure around this and a project management organization, then of course it will be very tricky.
Yeah, and I can see that Oscar is also answering. We have some actually we have some business cases that we can, or a person can, we usually also show what's happening in the organization, and then they will see the numbers. And I have personally one that I went through in Ericsson, where we started to work and letting the team work for themselves, of course with the guidance of direction and so on, but we created a team-based organization, went away from the project organization and started to work agile. And the result 2 years later was roughly that we had 4 times the customer value, 10 times the quality, half in the lead time, and the motivation in the organization went up really, really much. Then of course, sometimes figures isn't enough, so you maybe have to show them how this is done also, or create exercises around it or something like that.
But I've been in organizations where we needed to create an agreement with the leadership around this. That's just doing a half-day exercises, like Björn is saying, and then sharing the understanding of what we actually want with the organization and what benefits we would like to get from the teams. And then just have an agreement around that.
Helena Rosén was writing, earlier in your presentation, she wrote that it seems like when there is a difference in maturity inside the organization, there's always a problem. And what you're describing here sounds a bit like that as well, when you don't have the management with you. And Helena, just like you said then, that of course that happens in teams as well, when you try to combine a team and the people inside the team is not on the same level. So if you have any other comments regarding that, Helena, please write again and but I think that was what you were referring to at that time. But we have another question here from someone with an acronym, ACN. I'm not sure who that is, but they're writing that how to take the next step in an organization after Agile teams are formed and they have learned the Agile events as by a checklist. So what would be the next step then?
So I know that maybe the thing that comes first to my mind is the learning organization. So if we look at the onion, the Agile onion, moving from tools and processes and practices, spreading that and going up the values and the mindset, but also across the organization. And many times what I see in Agile organizations where you only have teams, you don't really get that strategic benefit from the organization. So you might need to look at the strategic levels and how teams can collaborate and creating that portfolio, Agile portfolio level. So supporting that, I would say, is usually needed. Otherwise, it might get difficult to work strategically and to increase collaboration in a good way. You might end up a little bit in chaos sometimes. So that might be it. And heading for that learning organization where we actually continuously learn and improve and not just stay with the teams, because it should be more than that probably.
Yeah, you have to bring, sooner or later, you have to bring in HR, finance, sourcing, administration, all those support functions also, sooner or later. And when you do that, amazing things starts to happen.
And it might be that you need more people in your teams as well. So I hear that still every day that the UX designers are sitting in their UX team. So might creating cross-functional teams that can actually develop end-to-end business value and take care of an actual part of the product as a maybe part of the customer journey, or one product end-to-end. So that could be also, if you have teams, maybe you need more people in to bring in the full process, the actual business process. Did we have any more questions, Pernilla, or anyone who would like to raise a hand and actually say something in the attendees?
We have had quite a number of comments and conversations in the chat, but just as you said, Kari, I mean, we can just transcript this and share with everyone, because I think that you have more or less answered all the questions that were in the chat, unless anyone wants to raise their hand now, because I think we're running out of time.
But so if anyone would like to say a couple of words from the attendees, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Really nice to hear some voices. We were actually scared that because I was thrown up from Zoom, the webinar function. Pernilla just saved me today, calling their finance department and fixing it. But we were actually planning on just having a big meeting, and then, of course, then we would have seen all of you in your videos. That would have been super nice. But now we don't see you, we see ourselves. So sometimes it's really nice to hear a voice as well. Thank you, Oscar. I can see that you're thanking for a good seminar. We enjoyed having you guys as well. Kari, do you have a couple of closing words that you would like to say?
Oh my goodness. I love how so many people showed up from around the world to join us. So thank you, especially having such a beautiful breadth of knowledge. And through the chat, people got to answer each other's questions, which is just fun to really tap into the collective intelligence. So we really appreciate you guys spending that hour with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And you will receive an email just after this webinar with the code for the 20% and the link. And
it
afterwards,
has already been sent out. They already have the code.
The automation magic. And then we will send another email with the actual posters. So we hope that you get those, and also the recorded webinar. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon, Kai.